Convenience Store News' POV series, where we share perspectives on the current issues and trends that are shaping the C-store industry. Today, we're joined by Mark Kimber, Chief Revenue Officer for FinTech, to discuss how convenience retailers can score efficiency wins with smarter invoicing. FinTech works with retail store businesses of all sizes, including convenience stores, to automate workflows from receiving to selling. Mark, thanks so much for being here with us.
Hey, Linda, thanks for having me.
To kick things off, can you tell me why is invoice data integration between retailers and their supply chain partners a necessity to stay competitive in convenience retailing today?
Yeah, great first question. There's a couple different viewpoints. When you kind of think of the retailer side, what really that process is when you think about all vendor networks, just not alcohol. That's a lot of paper that's coming in and being left at the site level. That data has to be transformed in some ways back to the corporate office. So accounting can do their thing, reconciliation can take place, looking at simple things like, did we even get the right product or the right product SKU price? So there's some synergies around simplifying what we do in the alcohol space today, where after a delivery is made, that distributor is uploading a file nightly with all the customers they serviced on FinTech. Send us that data, we pull it in, we aggregate it, do some checks and validations, make sure it's not a duplicate invoice from a previous day. And then we cleanly present that data in a file that can be ingested into the ERP system, either at the site level or at the corporate level for accounting, inventory, what other types of needs are required. We've now expanded that into CPG products because we had so many customers asking us, can you do Pepsi? Can you do Frito-Lay? Can you do all my other vendors? And so as we've migrated into that, we're doing the same thing. So we're being able to create visibility to things like reducing manual data entry, faster processing, better visibility to data quicker around that. For accounting, it's more around cash flow forecasting. There's nothing worse than getting an invoice 6 months or 4 months after a period or a month end closed where some vendor's looking for payment that nobody had visibility to. And on the vendor side, it allows the vendor to improve that relationship by being able to make sure that the corporate office did receive the data, inventory was keyed in correctly, those types of behaviors there. The only difference in the non-alc side is as a retailer, you still have the right to control the payment with that vendor. We don't make the payment per se like we do on the alcohol space, where by law we have to pay the invoice presented. We allow that payment control still to reside with the retailer.
I understand that there are some common challenges around vendor integration. Can you share those with me and also weigh in on how C-store retailers can overcome those challenges?
Yeah, another great question people really should kind of think about. I've had the opportunity to speak at a couple of conferences over the last 12 to 18 months specific on this topic. And when you survey the audience, we've talked to accounting clerks, operators that are in the field, all the way up to CIOs who have tried to launch an initiative to migrate to an EDI. Some of the lessons that we're kind of seeing is that when you try to own it yourself, sometimes you're having to support a unique EDI file for every single vendor you work with. And so we've talked to some retailers, 40, 80 sites, they may have 40 or 50 unique integrations they're having to support. And another example, on the vendor side, Frito-Lay, for instance, allocates funds to North American sales every year as a budget for IT, and North American sales dictates what retailers get to have an EDI file developed. And then Frito-Lay has to go in and build a unique custom file between Frito-Lay and that retailer. And so we've been working with Frito-Lay for over 20 years. And they're excited because they say, hey, we already have a unique file for FinTech. You mean all we have to do is take that retailer's data, put it into that same file you get today, and we do not have to build and support or take calls ongoing for some unique custom file for retailer. We said, yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of a win-win. And so that kind of reinforces that we're going down the right path, kind of expanding out of the three-tier system around that. The other thing is that for retail, we've heard stories where it's close to a $500,000 investment up front just to kind of create the infrastructure, right? A data center, being able to ingest, having resources dedicated to it. There are large C-store customers out there that have teams dedicated to it. We've had others saying it's just myself. I'm kind of a one-man band wearing multiple hats. I just don't have the bandwidth to kind of do that on that side of the fence. And in one case, I think it was last year, we had a CIO for a C-store customer stand up and said, "Hey, we started this initiative 2 years ago, and we've onboarded one vendor." And so we said, well, we kind of can take on that heavy lift. We'll go outsource the vendor, onboard them, get the data integration set up. And because we already have a file that they're getting as a retailer on the alcohol side, we already know what that format looks like. And it can be separated out. So they get two distinct files, one for non-alc items, one for alc, or we can introduce the data into one file and allow the vendor to upload it quickly and do all their forensics on their side like they do today and eliminate the manual entry.
That's fantastic. Sounds like a big time and effort savings for both sides of the equation. So once retailers go through this process, what are some of the key benefits that they can expect to realize throughout their entire operations?
Some of the feedback we get for somebody that we take live, and we always have kind of a crawl, walk, run approach. Like you have 100 vendors you work with. We're not going to go get 100 vendors overnight. Let's start with those 5 or 6 that are probably producing 60 to 70% of the invoice traffic that you have coming in. Let's test and validate, make sure it works. And then as we expand onboarding your vendors, we're just introducing additional data into that feed. Some of the feedback so far that's been positive has been enhanced compliance around the audit trail, easier auditing, and especially in regulatory affairs. Cash flow management has gotten a lot tighter, so they've been able to forecast better on pending invoices that are going out. Better security and encryption around the data, so there's not loose invoices floating around at the site level around that there. And then at the site level, which really that's where it starts, we're trying to really take a lot of administrative stuff off our operators in the stores every day. They have their hands full, right? Take care of your guests, make sure the stores are clean and efficient. It reduces that manual data entry, so there's time saving at the site level, faster processing. What they're seeing is lower administrative costs. We've heard as an industry average, it's about 5 minutes savings, just keying in an invoice when you kind of migrate over to an EDI format of streamlining the data. And it automates also that cross-checking functionality on reconciliation. It allows to streamline that. So if you are finding discrepancies in your data or your purchase data, you're able to act a little bit quicker, whether you're going back to a vendor for refunds, things like that.
That's wonderful. And we hear so much from operators about wanting to get their store managers out of that back office and on the floor for, to engage with customers. So this certainly sounds like it helps achieve that. Well, that was all the questions I had. Thank you, Mark, for sharing those wonderful insights. And thank you again for joining Convenience Store News and sharing your POV on this important topic.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me.